Hey everybody, I'm Bradley Jacobs. I'm our founder and CEO over at Mylance, and I'm here today with Brian. So Brian, thanks so much for joining us.
Absolutely.
All
Happy to
right.
be here.
Why don't you just start off with a quick introduction? Who's Brian? What are you doing today for work?
Sure. So I've been freelancing my entire career, straight out of college, moved to Los Angeles, studied film in college, so obviously that made the most sense. Moved out here with pretty much all my college filmmaking friends. So I had an instant community when I moved here, but no connections to the industry whatsoever. Um, Started freelancing immediately. I moved here. I got a PA job on a movie 1 week after living here. Hated it and was like, I don't think production is for me, at least not in the traditional sense. And then how I kind of got into freelancing was one of my other first gigs in LA. I was connected to a guy who happened to live around the corner from me through my internship I did in college. And I was like, "Oh, what do you do for a living?" He goes, "Oh," and he was a young guy. He goes, "Oh, I'm retired." And I'm like, "What are you talking about? Like, how are you retired?" He goes, "All right, I freelance." And so that what made me think, "Oh, maybe I can do this too." Just because I had a camera, I knew how to edit, and just started hustling, going on Craigslist, taking pretty much anything I could find to pay the bills at the time, and just started, just saying yes to everything, essentially, up until the point where I could make a living doing it, and never really looked back from there. Um, I stayed pretty busy, and yeah, I've never had a real job.
I love it. So many people we talk to that are customers of ours go from this professional career to freelancing. And so you have not done that, right? You've just started at the bottom, as you said, like scraping any job you could get. And I'm sure it's very different now. Right now, you don't just take anything. But
Right.
um, tell us about that progression, like the different in mindset from when you first started out and you're like, God, I need anything to where you're at today.
Oh man, it's been so many. It's been a long journey, but I'd say kind of what happened was I was the whole after working on that first film, I realized that the only way to really make it in the industry was to not be perceived as a pawn or someone who does grunt work. I need to find someone who values my creativity and what I can bring to the table. So while I was, trying to find different opportunities, I found a group of people that were forming a production company to pitch TV shows and films. Um, and they brought me on board as like their VP of production, but it was all just very speculative. But it was exciting because we did get representation with an agency, and we did eventually sell a TV show to Scripps Network. And so I had great experience like learning to do TV development. I became sort of a I want to sound cocky, but sort of a master of doing sizzle reels, which is how people use them to sell TV shows for reality anyway. Um, and From that experience, I went up making the leap to doing feature films after doing the TV show, and I may have made like 3 feature documentaries at this point, and they're all now streaming on Amazon, but they've been on Netflix and Hulu and other things. Um, and then the next iteration uh, happened in the last 3 years. I got very interested in digital marketing since I've seen how like fractured the whole television landscape has become and how everything's going digital. And I got into doing social media ads for mobile devices and YouTube and everything like that. And that's really what has been a huge game changer. Um, and so I started working with different Facebook marketing partners and some agencies and individual brands. And now that has become most of my full-time job, and that occupies probably 90% of my time. And now, but then just recently I've had people start realizing that I do these sizzle reels. So I'm starting to get that business back too. So, but now it's not speculative. Now people are just paying me to do them, which is great.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what's going on right now.
Awesome. So tell our audience, what's been the biggest key? Obviously, you've risen up the ranks. If the stuff you're editing's on Netflix and Amazon, I mean, that's a big deal, right? What's been the biggest key to rise up the ranks to go from any random Craigslist job to where you are now?
Obviously, I put in my 10,000 hours of, honing my craft. And I honestly, my biggest Achilles heel has probably been my lack of networking. I've been able to, but everyone that knows me, they use me forever. So, and people know me as the fastest person they've ever worked with. So, and I guess I must do good work. So, apparently that's very difficult to find. And I say that apparently because I haven't worked at one of these production companies to know what normal turnaround times look like. I just assume everyone needs everything immediately. So, so I'm very, I try to give the best service to every client that I can. And I try to treat them all like they're my only client. Because I remember there was a time where there was only one client. So I try to keep that same mentality today.
And does that help you get client referrals as well and kind of grow the business from there?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, most of my business has been from referrals. I've only started advertising on LinkedIn just in the last 2 months. That's definitely a big part of how things have worked out is through word of mouth and just sometimes it's friends of friends in the industry at this point. But
sure.
Yeah.
When you were starting out, did you build up a portfolio and then kind of host that somewhere of like, look, here's sample work I've done, or built up a YouTube video or YouTube channel or anything like that?
I moved. I had been free. I went to the University of Miami for college, and I was very active in their television program. So I had some freelance work outside of school during that time that I was able to have come out here with a reel to begin with, which a lot of people don't have.
Sure.
And then I just constantly kept updating it to try to stay as current as possible, because as my skills developed, obviously the reel would get better and better. So yeah, usually I hate when people ask me for my resume because I just don't like it. Just does not reflect what I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just like, just watch here's some examples, watch this, and that's usually enough.
Yeah. And do you host those examples on any kind of website, or you pretty much just have them in a folder that you can send out?
Most of it's hosted on Vimeo. My YouTube doesn't really have much on it. And then I have my Selects Media, which is my current company website at selectsmedia.com. And I also have like an Adobe portfolio as well.
Got it.
So a mix of different things.
Yeah. And how important has that been? Like, would you recommend someone else getting into, especially you're really in the creative, video editing, video production? Would you recommend that you post your stuff online and really make it accessible to help validate you, or not?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. If I'm not going to hire someone, and no one should hire me if they haven't seen my work. And it really bothers me if someone is like doesn't want to share it. I'm just like, I mean, you should be proud of your work, and that's a representation of who you are creatively. Right. So, yeah.
So it sounds like your biggest key is to get started out, take any job you can get, right? Just get a client and then crush the project, right? Like do an incredible job delivering value to the point where they're referring you, and you probably keep that client for a long time too.
Right. That's definitely been key. Because I try to, even more in recent years, I try to say that from the very beginning. Like I'm not interested in, one-off job with you. I want to develop this long term, because that in the end, years from now, it's going to add up to way more than, trying to go for a home run on the first job.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
How has your rate changed from when you first started out to where you're at today?
It's a great question, because moving out to Los Angeles is like very intimidating, because like everybody is hustling, and everybody is trying to figure out how to survive, don't know what they're worth, and especially not having the experience of working at a production company. That's only something that I've only recently feel like, oh, I'm feeling confident in what my rates are, that I'm worth this much, and knowing that the fact that my phone keeps ringing, that like I should feel confident charging as much as I do. But I mean, starting out, my only reference was how much I was making in Miami, and which I mean, I remember in Miami, I had a city job for the city of Miami Beach, doing like their news program. And I think that was, of course, that was back in like 2006 or seven. I think I was making like $18 an hour, which is like in most of the country, that's like a normal, like starting rate for a video editor.
Sure.
Or shooting or whatever. And then the first few years, I think it was like 35 an hour. And then now it's now I don't even do hour. I hate doing hourly. Like it's interesting, like being part of the community, and like we're all just learning at the same time, like how to, not work by the hour, because that just kills your potential. It's not value based.
Right. So how do you charge now?
I try to do flat rates per project. And if they're not comfortable with that, then I'll do like a day rate.
Got it.
Yeah. And it's still an interesting game of who's the client, what is their budget, all that type of stuff.
Yeah. Anything to share with our audience about what you've learned about how to get a good rate, how to learn what a client's budget is? It's a fun game.
Oh man, I don't know if I can give any advice that it would be concrete enough, because that's still something I don't know if anyone truly ever gets to really know, unless you have someone on the inside. I mean, I remember I had a client recently who then left the company they were working for, and then we talked afterwards, and he was like, "Oh man, I can't believe those." And this is a company that they weren't comfortable doing a day rate; they just wanted an hourly. And he's just like, "Man, you got to pad your invoice, man. Like, like hold on to it to the next day at least, because I'm always trying to do everything fast." So, which was kind of a weird thing to hear.
Yeah.
Because I'm just like, well, then is that dishonest? Like, I don't know what the right thing to do is there still. But let's see, advice. I mean, I think it's safe to say that if you're super busy and you are still like scraping to get by, that's a good sign that you're not charging enough. Also, I think that's pretty confident you can say that for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, what might seem like a lot to you might be pretty low for the company. Right. So, and that's hard to wrap our heads around, to walk into somewhere and say like, yeah, I deserve this amount, which may feel really uncomfortable to say, but for the company and what the value you're going to deliver to them, it might be like, okay, sure. And you're like,
right.
Wow.
Especially if they actually do need it very quickly.
Right. If that's your specialty, it's like, look, I get this done super fast and super high quality. You're going to pay for it, but I deliver every time. Companies, with cash won't have a problem with that. They'll be like, great, you're the right guy. Let's do it.
Right.
Yeah. Cool. I'm so curious, you've learned different skills throughout your freelance life, right? Even just the big shift going from really video editing and production to social media ads, right? And in my own experience and heard from other people, it's really hard to kind of get that different exposure. When you're at a company, you can kind of go be a newbie at a different division and they train you and you learn and you're getting paid while you do that. As a freelancer, you don't really have that opportunity. So I'm curious how over your career as a freelancer, you have learned different skills and jumped into different areas to add value to the company. Like, how have you done that?
I'd say most of these like transitions kind of happened organically, but then once they did, they usually always came out of a general interest anyway, that maybe it was something that, I'm going to throw out the word manifested. But like I got into, I got to direct my first feature documentary because I just told a friend that I was interested in directing a documentary. And then it just sort of started happening.
Yeah.
I became interested in digital marketing and an opportunity just came into my life to get into doing the mobile ads. So I think I'm a big believer that whatever you want to manifest, you put out into the world and make that known that that's what you want to come to you. And it may take some time, but eventually, at least in my experience, it's happened. And then beyond that, it's just educating yourself, which that's so easy now.
Right. Right.
So.
Well, it sounds like it's also you got to ask for it, right?
Yeah.
It's like, this is what I want to do. And yeah, may not happen right away, but it's not going to happen if you don't ask, right?
Right. And we don't find success in a vacuum. It takes other people. So
right.
That's the other half of it. And then it's just hustle,
Yeah. Yeah. You've been a freelancer for how many years now?
I think I'm coming up on like 15 years.
15 years. 15 years as a freelancer. What has that made available to you or allowed you to do that you might not have been able to have done as an employee?
I mean, I think, a lot of people, especially in entertainment, they generally get like pigeonholed into doing one thing and they think that's all you can do. And, as a freelancer, I can decide, oh, I want to, try to develop my own TV show or I want to go into digital marketing and I can make that change at any point in my life. I can stop doing something at any point in my life. I can go travel, take time off if I want, even though it's really hard now these days. If I go home and visit my family, I don't have to ask for time off. I can just book it, and that's that. And bring my laptop, no big deal. I mean, I'd say those are the main things. I mean, it's just freedom.
Yeah. Have you taken advantage of that? Have you taken big sabbaticals or big trips?
I've traveled. Usually don't go for like too long. Usually I go for like 2 weeks at a time, places, and because I do find I try to operate like a normal business. I let clients know that I'm going to be out of town. It's if I knew when there was going to be like an ebb in my flow, that would be amazing. But I wish to be able to travel, plan around those times. But now they're becoming few and far between. So now it's like, oh, I have that same rush. I gotta get all this work done before I go to town.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Have you done any subcontracting in your time as a freelancer?
Yeah. In the last few years, when things kind of get a little crazy, I've subcontracted some, and I'm still trying to figure out how to. That's one of my biggest problems now is finding good help that's affordable and trustworthy and reliable. And usually, in most cases, I probably could have just done it myself. So that's been kind of a pain point recently, is because I want to find that person that I can reliably hand projects off to. But being it's a creative business, it's and people do expect things quickly. It's tough.
Yeah, I mean, it leads me to my next question about your aspirations. Do you want to build this into a little consulting business, or you have people under you? Do you want to just kind of optimize it as a business of one? Like, what's your ideal 3 to 5 year plan?
Yeah, I'd love to build it into like more of a post house that can do all the projects that come in and not feel like I have to get to the point where I'm overwhelmed to like overflow into someone else, so that I can have someone that's just already there and ready to either prep projects for me or take them on fully, um, and can just be my right hand person,
Yeah.
or persons eventually.
Yeah.
Like, I'd love to travel more.
Right. No, I hear you. I mean, how do you go about doing that? How do you find that? As you said, that's kind of your biggest challenge, finding that talent. How do you do that?
That's really my biggest challenge right now. So um, that's like the most current thing going on. And it's tough because I'm in the business every day, editing, taking, and then trying to manage phone calls and doing everything. I think first maybe I gotta um, get a virtual assistant first to do some administrative things, and then I don't know. I think I'm just trying out people, give them a little something here, a little something there,
Yeah.
and then see how that relationship develops and see what value they bring essentially.
Right. Biggest resources that have helped you on your journey. I've talked to some people that have hired a coach, some people join communities, over the 15 years, what has been the most helpful?
I mean, I definitely rely on uh, other friends in the business that might have um, some insight into a certain aspect of the business that I don't know about. Like if I'm trying to pitch a TV show, like, you know, should you attach the talent first or get a, there's all these little tips like that. And also just every project I work on that where I get to collaborate with someone, I try to take that in as an experience where I can learn from them. And even if they're like a difficult person to work with, those are usually the people that I learn the most from, because they're very picky, and that there's usually something there I can learn from. Um, Other resources. I mean, it's been interesting. I've tried doing like a business coach last year, and that was kind of helpful to push through some mental hurdles around like finding what my value was and how to, because pricing is, as I said, that's a thing it's a mental thing more than like a physical thing in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
To say confidently what you should be charging. What else? I'm excited to, be a part of Mylance, and because it just people that are not even in my industry, but we're all having the same challenges.
Yeah.
So it's just to like read through the different threads and see how people are having the same problems that I'm dealing with, but on different levels, in different industries. It's interesting.
Yeah. Cool. In the case our audience looking to hire you, whether it's for video editing or social media ads or anything else, how can they find you?
Brian at selectsmedia.com. And I can handle most of everything. Prefer the shorter content these days, just for the turnaround.
Sure.
But yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks so much for being with us today, Brian.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, I'll see you in the community.
Good to be here. All right. See you, Brad.